Here's another one. One time for the mind now. Let's go. Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to the Tangent Podcast. As you can probably see, this episode is a bit shorter than our usual ones. We decided to transition to a shorter format to try to pump out episodes more quickly because we want to get more content to you guys, and algorithms and such, they love more content faster. So we'll be trying to push out these episodes that are probably about anywhere between 40 minutes to an hour, usually around there somewhere. It won't be exact, of course. But we're trying to get more content out to you guys, so we hope you like it. If you also notice, probably in the background, Yjang would have added in some music, and there will be some sort of, meme clips, funny memes that he'll add in sometimes. So hope you guys enjoy that. I know he puts a lot of work into it. So thanks, Yjang, for doing all that.
And now, let's get into the show.
Yeah, welcome to episode 11 of Tangent Podcast. Name to be determined later. Dude, we should name it that. That'd be cool.
Why not? Let's just call it Shadows of Grief. I don't know, Clouds.
That's so edgy.
I know. I was just looking at the title of the song that I'm listening to.
Well, the song I was just listening to that I sang to the viewers that you might add in was End of the World from JoJo Part 3. Yeah, it's pretty good. Also, speaking... Okay, no. We'll start in a second. I just need to say, if you haven't seen it, the Torture Dance from JoJo Part 5 got animated.
We have all seen
it. It's fucking amazing.
It's so good.
The music, the animation, it's so good. Just go look up JoJo Part 5 Torture Dance. It's so good.
Let's just talk about it. Let's just talk about it right now.
Okay.
Yeah. So, okay, let's forget about parts. Let's talk about JoJo, okay? JoJo... This has been like the thing the community has been asking for, and it's been so amazing to see this dance because I remember being on the Reddit, and you remember being on the Reddit, when everyone was like complaining about the last episode that they still haven't released a dance, and I was just combing through Japanese Twitter a couple days ago, and I saw they had like a little preview, like they're gonna put it up.
Yeah, like I remember the morning of last Friday. And someone posted, the Japanese Twitter just posted a screenshot of the Torture Dance, just like a single shot. Thousands of upvotes. Everyone was just so hyped because the week before, when it was supposed to come out, because that's how it was in the manga, we didn't get it. But it was so worth it. It was so
everyone
good.
Was, I remember one comment was like, "It still dropped, and we still weren't ready for it."
Yeah. It was so much better
so
than I thought it'd be.
I honestly am surprised. Like, I what do you think about the music? Because I thought the music was perfect.
JoJo has pretty good music. When I sent you all the music for the podcast that we'll be using. Also, if you're wondering where that music comes from, it's a mix of Persona, Cowboy Bebop, Jet Set Radio, and a few JoJo songs. None of them are vocal. Well, except a few of them have like a word or two, but it's not much. What's it called? JoJo has pretty good music.
Exactly.
I enjoy a lot. But this was just really different from most of their other songs. So I can't wait until the full one gets released because it's so good.
It's like, it's so good. I don't know what to say because I didn't expect for... I think what the team did this time at the studios, they really went all out for this because they could have just popped out the dance and then everyone been like, oh yeah, but everyone knew they put some time and effort into it, and I really respect that.
It was like 4 panels in the original manga, and they made it into a almost minute-long clip with their own custom-made music and amazing graphics. So it was quite something. I just wish it was in English, because right now I'm still on JoJo Part 4, and every Sunday a new dubbed episode comes out. And I'm only on episode 9, and there's 30 something episodes, so I'm gonna be waiting a while to even get close to part 5.
I mean, if I were you, I would start, trying to train your ears into sub.
No, I won't do it.
You want to get into this debate right now? Because I will.
Yes,
Let's
dub
go.
is better than sub.
NANI? お前はもう死んでいる.
I'm going to deny that in most cases, and for one good reason only. The dub actors have a higher potential of messing up how the characters...
Dub actors do better acting than the Japanese actors. No, let me talk. Almost
Go ahead.
all
I'll
of the Japanese actors I've seen, for example, I got the JoJo fighting game recently, which is only in Japanese. And hearing their voices in Japanese makes me think these people are going way over the top. Like one thing I like in a lot of the anime I've seen, and if you're wondering what I've seen Fullmetal Alchemist, Cowboy Bebop, Gurren Lagann, Durarara, One Punch Man, JoJo, the Persona 4 anime.
Mostly shonen.
That's all.
I'm assuming.
Oh, and My Hero Academia.
Yeah.
I watched all of them dubbed. What's it called? But from what I've seen of the like for example, I watched One Punch Man. It was actually my first anime. I watched it subbed originally, and comparing the sub and the dub, I just find the dub much more superior because it's probably because I can like understand the emotion in a voice when it's English a lot more compared to a Japanese voice. But I just feel a lot of the Japanese actors go way over the top and overact their roles. Well, yeah, some of the English actors might be a bit subdued, but for some characters that really sells it, like Spike from Cowboy Bebop, his more subdued, down-to-earth voice, I think, is a lot better in English than it is in Japanese.
All right, I understand that, but here's the thing: I'm not going to discredit that dub does a great job at conveying characters, and in many ways giving it more life and ground to work with than sub does. But the issue still remains is that in sub, there's usually it usually fits the environment much better than you can do in dub. Now, there's some thematic issues that maybe some sub genres don't fit well in for my ears. Like Cowboy Bebop, it makes more sense to have a jazzy, smooth talking, Spike and his dub voice, because I listen to that much more than the sub version, and I give you credit for that. But in terms of Gurren Lagann, or for mostly any Japanese show and Japanese anime that is set in Japan, it usually does a much better job. Now, credit where credit's due. I mean, like My Hero Academia, there's some good dub in there, and also for example, I would never listen to Pokemon in sub because I just can't train my ears for that. But in my opinion, I think it's just you're more likely to have a better experience overall with sticking to the original source material than using dub, because if you use dub, you have like a 50-50 chance of it being okay or really bad or really good.
Evidence. All this is screaming and feelings. How about
nowadays,
a shred of evidence?
I think dubs are just getting better and better. Like maybe in the past when we were kids, or even before we were born, in the 90s and such. Even though I was born in '99, so I'm technically a '90s kid.
Wrong.
But I think dubs definitely did have a major problem back then because there wasn't that much attention put on them. But with the rising popularity of anime, I think dub companies are getting a lot more into it. And like a problem I'm seeing is they're using a lot of the same actors. Like I'll listen to a show and I'll be like, oh, I know who that is. And well, that's a whole nother issue, but I won't get into that because that'll be a whole nother tangent. But the main thing for me is anime is a visual medium. At its heart, it's not a book, it's not a radio, it's not an audio podcast like this. You see moving images like it's a movie. I don't want to read words at the bottom while also trying to have to pay attention to what's happening on screen. Now, some series might be better for this. Like for example, if it's a more slice of life show where most shots will be people standing around, sitting down, maybe someone's yelling every once in a while, it's okay to read at the bottom. But if it's an action show where there's so much fluid motion happening on, like it just gives me a headache trying to watch that motion and read the subtitles at the same time.
But I have to disagree, and because I feel like this is something... Now, I'll tell you this. You recently got into anime, and I'll have to say that...
Recently as in in the past 6 months, yeah.
Exactly. So I can't really say, well, you need to get better at it, because for me, I have 5 years of watching anime consistently, and I have gotten to the point where I can read sub basically the same as I read English. I mean, it takes maybe some effort when it's like a really long word, but overall it just kind of goes automatic for me. So I never really had that problem, and I can't say that I should expect it to be up to that same par.
That just seems like a further
I feel like this
barrier
is
to
something that dub makes it easier for you to intro into something new, but I assure you, there's a lot better, there is a lot better anime whenever they use the original source material with sub, because it just sounds more like the character than if I were to use dub. Now, I will give you this though. In recent years, because the market has expanded because of new demand for anime, and it's much larger than before, it's getting to the point where the fact that I'm talking with you means that we're getting to the point where it's really mainstream. And it's not so quite into the mainstream, but it's getting close. And because of that, there's a lot more demand for like voice actors, which, like for example, if you don't know this, for Phoenix Wright, Ace Attorney, the voice actor for Phoenix Wright, who does like the objection, that everyone knows, like right here. Objection! He is actually famous beyond that. I think he's also done some work in Dragon Ball Z, and on top of that, he's also a host for Critical Role, which is a D&D podcast, which I'll link in a little bit later. But I do think that dub is good, but you shouldn't put it as... I think a better way to explain it is that dub is kind of like having French toast, where sub is like having a waffle. French toast can get really messed up if you don't know how to do it right, and if you don't go to the good restaurant. Where waffles and pancakes, you're usually going to have a consistent experience that might be really, really good, but overall you're going to know what you're expecting. So that's the problem with dub. It can be really too erratic, especially the longer you go back into anime. Like the new stuff right now, it's actually pretty good. Like new dub is good. But in the past, like going back to stuff in like early 2000s or in like the 90s, some of that dub is just like hilarious to listen to, but it's just bad.
And I wouldn't disagree with you there. In the past, stuff might be bad, but going into the future with new stuff coming out, I think the argument for sub just gets weaker because of the rise in the amount of voice actors and quality voice actors. And plus, most people want to hear entertainment in their own native tongue. And I think you would agree that if there was an equal quality sub and dub, I think you would try to watch the dub because it's a lot easier to understand and connect to.
Exactly. I mean, I'll say this. I don't think I would get into anime as much as I did if it wasn't for like Pokemon being in dub and it really has good dub actors, because that was like my gateway into it. Beyond like, I would say when I became a real anime fan, in my opinion, was when I started listening to more anime that wasn't in dub yet, but it was super good. And I feel as though another benefit I found from it is that subs allowed me to explore culture a bit more, because one of the benefits about listening to something in another language, and this has gone for other media that I consume, such as like French songs from like Strome, he's a Belgian artist if I remember correctly, and K-dramas, is that I'm able to, learn more words in another language. And whenever you research those words and how they're used, you're able to get better context than how you would be able to say it in English, because there's certain phrases and certain ways how you would say a situation that has multitude more meanings in like Japanese or in French or in Korean than if I were to just translate it in English. And for me, that's one of those kind of important things that sub does. Now, translation is also a kind of distortion of the original copy, but it's more, in my opinion, true to the source material. But one of the things I do say is that they kind of do have like in similar ways to creative freedom, because, and I think you would agree with me, is that if a dub actor is really into the show and really knows how to connect with the material, they might go off the script to make it more appeasing to like our audiences in the way that we would talk. And sub does the same thing from time to time, and like in many ways. But that's the thing, is that I get the benefit of listening to the language while also having it translated to mine.
And I get that, and well, I kind of do and I kind of don't, because sub is still a translation. Like, for example, say there's a word in Japanese that doesn't have an English equivalent, they're still going to have to try to make something there, And I don't get how it's different if you're reading it versus someone saying that exact line. But I don't really want to dwell on that right now because I want to bring up another point, which is
okay. Well, for the listeners, if you listen to sub or dub in whatever show or media you listen to, just tell us, email us, or however you want to contact us.
Yeah, Twitter. How like however Twitter works. I don't really know. I just put up like updates to the podcast every once in a while. But we're still
back to the JoJo.
No. I just wanted to go on a quick tangent real quick, which is a dub actor that I hear in almost like everything I listen to, which is this guy. Let me get his name right. Yuri Lowenthal. What's it called? He was Simone in Gurren Lagann. He's Yosuke for anyone who plays Persona. He's McCready in Fallout 4. He's in like fucking everything. And it's kind of a like he's a very good voice actor. For example, he can give a character like a lot of life because he's a lot of depth. And these new like dub actors, people like him, and I know he's a big time voice actor because if you even just scroll through his IMDb page I sent you, he's been in a lot of things. But people like that I think can bring a lot more to dub acting. Hey, good transition. The dub in JoJo is very good. Like for example, Dio's dub actor I think does a very very good job of adding life to the character. Now he's different from the Japanese because I've heard the Japanese one now. The Japanese one sounds a lot more, I don't know, crazy and a bit more like demented. Well, I thought that was like
I want to just talk about that. I think that was like kind of like the original intent to make him Dio really bizarre, but I understand what you mean because like Dio in the dub, he sounds more like charismatic.
He sounds like cool and like collected.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is a good contrast because in part 3, spoilers, Dio comes back. No! And in the final fight, he kind of just goes crazy, where he sticks his own finger into his skull and just like twists it around. It's a pretty good clip. And he just kind of goes insane because he's starting to see someone who rivals his power, just like he did in part 1. And talk.
Well, I would like to say that when it comes to, for anime and, just any genre of, media that is outside of, our native language, I do want to say to the listeners that I always advocate for people to experience the language because I think that for me, I wouldn't obviously if it wasn't for anime I don't think I would be taking my Japanese class, but there's also a lot of things that I was really interested in learn more about the culture just by getting into it, by immersing myself more into it, because it gives you that kind of question of like, oh, what does this word mean, and then you kind of go in this little rabbit hole that stumbles into you to really understand a little bit more about the world that the creator built their art in. And I find that really special to me, and because whenever I feel like I can immerse myself into someone else's shoes, especially one that is a creator, I feel much more invested into that art and also the series that I'm in. I do want to move on and talk a little bit about, basically, since we're already on the topic of media, I wanted to talk about some of the things that were going on in the news today, and basically a little bit of my take about how I feel about the news. And I'm probably not too much of a surprise to anyone.
Oh yeah, sorry viewers, I'm a bit sick.
Yeah, same here. My voice is a little bit coughed up, so you have to pardon us for that. But it's flu season. In the end, I just wanted to basically talk about like the news. I know recently there was like, I think Melania Trump was like firing a staffer.
Let me just go over this site.
And as I was like going through it, from what I understand,
have you heard about? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No. I was basically thinking that, from what I understand, the staffer was fired from Melania Trump for basically, from what I understand, disrespecting her by back talking or refusing to comply with her orders. And I thought it was kind of like interesting because you just straight up fire her. And I don't think I'm not too sure if like could a first lady did do that, but apparently it happened, and I was finding that really interesting because I didn't know that kind of power resided.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what the restrictions on power that the first lady has. But the thing that just came to mind that I want to talk about is, have you heard about this like recount going on in South Florida?
Oh yeah. So yeah, let's talk about that. So what I understand, I had to go back and check the news for about this. But from what I understand is that because the vote, especially for the senator's race, was so close, there was an automatic recount that was established. And on top of that, Andrew Gillum had the right, because the margin of error to win was really close. He could ask for a recount. But from what I understand also is some people say that there was voting disenfranchisement.
I've got a article open here about it. So it was in Broward County, which I don't know where that is. It's probably south of Orlando, north of Miami.
One of my roommates lived in Broward County, and it's not too far away from Orlando. Probably like 45 miles away.
Apparently, they didn't turn their votes in on time, like when the polls closed last week sometime, or like almost a week and a half ago now. And apparently there was a big scandal because when they went to go turn in their votes, they said that they found like 3,000 more votes and wouldn't let the officials read them or something like that. So people thought it was voter fraud. And apparently they had been sending back votes to people who had, sent them in, what are those called? Like the away votes or whatever they're called. They'd been sending them back saying that they did them wrong and to redo them all. So maybe they're trying to change people's votes and stuff like that. So, but apparently they had just gotten turned in and it didn't change the outcome of the election. But according to, I'm reading here from the site. According to reports in Broward County, after election officials failed to submit the result of the machine's count time, which showed the Republicans' vote margins increasing, thus nullifying them, they managed to get through the hand recount much more quickly. Mother Jones Pema Levy, who has been tracking the development in Broward and Palm Beach, reported Friday the hand recount had already wrapped up and the incumbent Democrat Senator Bill Nelson didn't come close to making up the votes he needed to try to catch up to the Republican Rick Scott. So yeah, apparently they had to go to a hand recount because their machines were messing up so hard or something, or I don't know. I remember I heard that the woman who runs the voting precinct on there, who handled the votes, apparently got indicted for voter fraud charges about 10 years ago. So yeah.
Wow.
I don't know.
Honestly, I mean, I'm reading through a CBS article at this point, and a lot of it, from what I understand, is that people are saying that the Democrats are kind of using this as a way to catch up on votes. But in all fairness, this vote was so close that it's kind of hard for me to say that it was voter fraud on one end or not. Even if it was, let's assume that the plates were reversed and Bill Nelson barely won by a percentage, and and Gillum barely won by 1%. I would still be like, dang, it was way too close. And if I heard something about a recount, I would be suspect, because it seems as though this was this was a really important midterm on many levels. For one, if I remember correctly, the Democrats took the majority of the House.
Yeah, but the Republicans kept the Senate. Yeah.
Yeah, they kept the Senate, but this is still really important because beforehand, for the past 2 years, it has been Republican domination for all
three branches. Yeah.
And now the Democrats have one part of a branch, but it's pretty important for the Republicans, in my opinion, because if you can make sure you have a grip on Florida, which is a really important swing state, it's going to help you in the long term, especially for the new presidential elections. I mean, and I'm saying this because not even a couple of days after, I remember seeing tweets from the new candidates saying about who they're planning on running, not officially, but just little hints, little previews. And because of that, when you look at this recount, wherever the the result's going to be. It's going to be divisive. It's going to be, not a lot of people are going to want to like the results, but we're going to have to figure out what we do about this. Now, for me, I am not really like, I understand that these big votes are important. I don't like the current voting system, in my opinion, mainly because I think like first past the post, despite how other people
I think our voting system is the best it can be. But
I would like to say that alternative voting and other systems out there, like mixed proportional voting, there are things I would probably use in this system, but regardless, that's not the option we have right now.
One thing I wanted to mention is that Florida's mostly always been a purple state, but have you seen how California is moving more and more blue, which is pretty surprising. And I did a bit of God, I'm coughing too much. I did a bit of looking into it, and it seemed that the reason that is because rural voters are still almost like overwhelmingly voting for Republicans, while urban voters are almost overwhelmingly voting for Democrats. But the suburban population has been turning against Trump, and they've been voting more Democrat than they did in 2016.
So what's your theory on it?
Well, from what I saw, some people are saying it's because suburban voters are more moderate usually. They're more in the middle, but they're also more character-based, as in they'll vote for a person who they think is a better person, not really based on as much policy. While in the rural and urban voters are much more activist types who vote on policy.
I never thought that.
So with Trump's past 2 years of, Twitter and all the shit he's done, all the stuff he's said, I think it's turned some of the suburban voters against him. Like, that's why I originally didn't like Trump in 2016, was because I didn't like him as a person. And now I also didn't like some of his policies, like his anti-free trade and tariffs and things like that. What's it called? But most suburban voters, it seems, are turning against him in favor of the Democrats, who they see as more moderate compared to Trump's antics.
I'll tell you this. I know. I mean, this is the first time I was able to vote. Actually,
same.
I was, now I turned 18 a couple, a year ago. But I'll say that this whole presidency, and I'm saying this whole season from 2015 and today, it has been a real mess. I mean, I understand that, and other people will say well, it's as much of a mess as before, but in my opinion, this has been the most
I don't think we were old enough.
I mean, yeah, but I can't. And then again, you have to take it from a person who's only lived for about almost 2 decades.
Almost
2 decades, and half of that I didn't know anything about politics. So what can you do?
Yeah, but you got woke at 9 years old.
yeah. That's why I started caring about oh wow, there's deficit spending. What the? No,
here's my opinion on the flat tax. Walks into 4th grade.
Well, yeah, that'd be interesting. But I do think that as growing up, things were a little bit less chaotic, and this is coming from someone who, his parents lived up and were raising me during 9/11. During Bush administration.
Well, we were babies during 9/11.
Yeah, but it was I'll say this. Although I was a baby, my mom was kind of getting her bearings in America at the same time, because she was just immigrating here. And at the same time, 9/11 happened, so it was a lot different for my family coming in. But even she would recall, when she was here in the 90s and when she finally immigrated here in 2000, it was a lot more calm and a lot more easy to work around with. I would honestly say that things have been a lot more chaotic, but I feel as though growing up, my generation will be one that is used to growing up in a very chaotic world. And I'm not just saying in terms of politics. I'm saying this in terms of technology and media, because
ever changing,
and everything. And this is why I want and for our new tangent, just moving on, especially for the news. One of the things that I would say, I would talk about social media and the news. is that when I was 12, I was actually really into Facebook. I'll tell you that. If I were to really go back into my Facebook and just, go through my history, all my histories when I was like 12, 13, I was really excited because I wanted to be a good boy and follow the terms of service so I can be there just legally. But but it was a lot more, chaotic because you didn't know what to say, you didn't know who's who, what's what. And the most I remember when I was younger, West it was a lot wild. But I think one thing that was true is that when I was younger, my professors would say, and not my professors, my teachers would say, use, New York Times, use Washington Post as your sources for getting news. They would tell me what sources to go for. And for the most part, and going back in their history, they were more or less reputable. So you could go to them and figure out what's going on. Nowadays, and
everything's so partisan.
Everything's partisan. It's always been partisan, but it's so...
But now there's no facade in the way. Yeah.
And
I don't know.
There's the terms of how we do things and the euphemisms that kind of kept our, world together have kind of been thrown out the window for a more, direct approach. And whereas before I would say someone would say securing our borders, now it's just deport them, they're criminals. Or before someone would say that we need to expand, civil rights, other people. Now we're talking more in depth about what kind of people deserve better representation, like, the transgender community, immigrant community. We're getting a lot more specific and a lot more, I would say a lot more abrasive and direct of what we want in our demands. Though I think the reason we say that is because I don't think the other side is listening. So we just have to spread it out there so people would, get the message.
Well, I think that's one of the problems, is seeing other people as the other side. It's like an us versus them mentality. One of the best things, which surprises a lot of people because, I'm on the right and a lot of people our age aren't, I would say the majority. Most people have a stereotype when they hear that I'm, on the right wing. They think, that I'm some evil racist, sexist, all that kind of stuff. But just, just talking to people and showing that you're a human being too, and you have reasons for your ideas. I think that's one of the greatest things in helping to solve this partisanship that's, I think, tearing the nation apart. Because I agree with you. I think a lot of our politics is going towards the extremes. The left is getting lefter and the right is getting righter, and it's going into a black versus white mentality. And everyone sees themselves as the good guys and the other guys as, evil demons who want to either destroy our nation and, make us a globalized, communist state with, gulags and stuff, or take us back to the 1800s and institute white supremacy or something like that.
Go back to Nazi Germany or whatever.
Yeah. Both sides are seeing each other in this such dark light, when really I think a lot of us still hold those same ideals more towards the center, where we just have to keep screeching louder and louder to try to be louder, than the other person. It just turns it feels like the nation, the world is turning into a screaming match, and I wish everyone would just shut up.
Yeah, and I think, here's my theory about it, and take it or leave it, listeners, but this is what I think. I think people are lonely, and I mean lonely in the sense of it's hard to connect with. And I'm saying this at a personal level too, because for me, one of the things that I say I lack is intimacy, in terms of being connected or feeling really close to someone. And while the internet exists so I can connect with other people, and Instagram, Snapchat, Facebook exists so that way I can talk to more people than ever, I feel as though my relationships are fake. And not fake, but more of they don't have the same weight as an actual human interaction. And with that, a lot of it, how we, see our beliefs and how we choose who our friends are really constrained, as we all admit and know about bubbles. But because of that, it's really hard for other people and myself to sometimes see the other side and see them as human. Maybe I probably don't agree with a lot of what they say, usually not, but it's more easy for me to say that I hate this person, or I don't like at all what they're saying, or I think that they're spitting out nonsense, than I could say that they're a person who has their convictions and beliefs. And it's a lot because I don't see the face on the other side of the screen.
Yeah, I think being on the internet makes people more volatile and more prone to being their worst selves, because when you're face to face with someone, you usually don't want to upset them. Well, most people, unless you're like a sociopath or something. But for example, like me and you, we have fairly different ideals on many, many things. And yet I think we're still quite good friends. But I think that's because we met in person. If we met online, we probably would have had a very, very long argument about something like inane.
I think I would
never talk to each other again. Yeah.
Yeah, because I wouldn't want to bother with it. But
you're talking about social media, and there's so many social medias these days, and I've never been into social media. Like, I have a Facebook, I have a Twitter, but I never post anything on them. Like, at most I'll repost some my family will tag me in like vacation photos or something, and I'll just add that to my Facebook wall. But I'll never post anything myself because I don't care about it. It feels so fake and like not real whenever I talk to someone on there, that I'd rather just, call up my friend or send him a text message or just walk into the other room and talk to my brother. And because I have these real connections. Like, for example, when I'm bored recently, and it's been a few days since I've talked to Yjang, I'll send him a message, maybe send like a meme with it, because I'd rather talk to him than go look for some random thing on the internet that'll make me chuckle slightly, and then I'll feel lonely again. And I'm sure he appreciates the barrage of messages that I send sometimes.
I love JoJo memes 24/7.
Okay,
I think they're the best memes.
But it sucks though, because I'll send them to you and you'll like leave me on read for like 2 fucking days, and I'll be like, did he even see it? Like, what did he think? He like could have just said, okay, that was funny. Like, that takes like 3 fucking seconds.
I mean, I'll tell you this. I do. Let me go on another tangent. I want to say that for myself, I tend to be not the best communicator when it comes to technology. I am much better talking face to face, and this is a chronic problem that I have had for, I don't know, 5 years. I am not really good at it, and I'm saying this because I barely call my family, and I barely call people that I actually care about. And I like to give myself the excuse like, oh, no, I'm working hard on something. But really it's like, I could spare a second. Mm-hmm. And this is just like my own, issues. Because I was to say this. I'm basically more of a loner kind of person. I don't really, I like talking with people. But I have a hard time getting connected with people in terms of intimacy. Like, I want to know how you're feeling. I want to know how you're doing. What was your day like? That's not so much what I can do. It's a lot of work for me.
Yeah, that's a bit easier for me. But as you know, from your first like year or two of knowing me, it takes a long time for me to try and do that. Like, I have to make sure that I can trust you as a person and all that kind of stuff. Like me now is very different from how you first met me back in freshman year. Like, I probably seem like almost a completely different person. But that person, but like that person you saw, of course, was a mask I was wearing and all that sort of stuff, which I still kind of use when I meet new people. But for example, in my chem class, I made some friends, and one of them is this guy Sean. Hi Sean, if you're listening, I told you about the podcast. What's it called? And I think I have this sort of style of just drilling past people's barriers by being as open as possible when I want to be friends with them. Like, I'll just tell them information about, like, I don't know, my childhood, or I'll just be so upfront and straight with them. Like for example, we had just come out of our most recent chem exam, and he's talking like, man, that test was hard. I'm like, yeah, that test was bullshit. She didn't even tell us like half the stuff that's on it. I just studied so hard, and I bet I'll get like a C on it. And he's like, yeah, man, you're right. And like, I just find it easier to connect with people because I try to get to the core of, I don't know, who they are as a person. Like for example, when I talked with you the other day about like being yourself, I think I got pretty quickly to the core of the issue because you're facing a similar problem to what I faced. So I, didn't beat around the bush and just went straight to it, which I think works most of the time, but some people are pushed away by it. So
right. I'm more open to like talk about it a little bit, but all in all, the basis crux of what we were talking about was what I said earlier about intimacy, and this has turned to more of like how I connect with people in terms of friends and relationships, because I would say that for myself, I have a harder time connecting with people on a one-on-one level unless it's like on an everyday, habitual basis, because for me, it takes a lot of energy for me to do that, mentally and physiologically, because I am I'm introverted, but I understand that I take most of my really good memories are when I allow myself to be more vulnerable and connect with people on a really deeper level. And recently, over the month, I was taking like a self-discipline, like this has been like a whole month of me going through self-discipline and using my time to really focus and meditate on these issues. And because of that, I see that I am not necessarily, a bad person, or I am a person that's like weak, but I'm a person that has
flaws, yes.
Challenges I have to go through and some flaws that are totally normal and very human, but they're things that I don't necessarily have to give out 100% every day, but I need to make sure I at least put in 50% to just try to work on them like as a habit, because without that, I'm not going to be able to grow and progress as a person.
Overcoming your own quote unquote weakness it's a hard thing, but that weakness is also a part of your personality. Usually it's a flaw that's been in you for many, many years. Like, for example, my weakness was that I wouldn't open up to anyone. I bottled all of my emotions, and I wouldn't tell anyone anything that was happening with me, and I was just a depressed, angry wreck for a long time, because it was taught to me that, oh my god, there's my alarm to go to sleep, sorry. It was taught to me since a young age that, a man is supposed to be tough. He's not supposed to cry. He's not supposed to complain. He's supposed to suck it up when he gets knocked down and keep going. And he's supposed to not talk to anyone about his problems. He's supposed to take other people's problems. And I still face that, like, a lot. But overcoming that, just showing my weakness to other people and having them, still accept me for who I am, it's made me feel a lot happier in life. Like, you'll notice if you go back to our first few episodes before that entire thing happened, because I did it over this past summer. And the first few episodes were right at the start of summer. You'll see in things like masks in our first two episodes, I'm not a very happy person. But I think in these more recent episodes, you can see that I'm living life to my best because I've learned to overcome that weakness. And that's what I tried to tell you the other night via message, is that, like, I can't tell you what to do because every person's different, but you just got to face that weakness, that, other
Definitely.
Side of you.
I remember, I do want to talk about this one thing, and I really appreciate hearing this from my roommates. One of them was like, we were doing a Nerf gunfight in our dorm, and as we were fighting each other, one of my roommates pulled the Magnum on me, the Nerf Magnum on me, and I was like basically gonna get shot, and it's like, you won't do it, and but then my other roommate who was right next to me backing me up is like, you don't know Yjang always faces his problems head on, whether for good or worse. And it's like, aw, thanks, man. And then I just grabbed the gun and, flipped it and shot the guy in the back. So it was fun.
Ooh,
but I did like that. No, I didn't backstab him. I took the gun from
shooting a guy in the back. That's dirty.
No, I took the person who had the gun pointed at me. I just grabbed it with my hand, flipped it, and then turned around and shot him in the back.
You mean like an action movie?
Yeah.
Like somebody's got a pistol trained on you, and you just grab it out of their hand.
I really did.
Break their hand and shoot them in the face.
Yes. I'm that good.
And is that how you broke your ankle?
No.
Not broke it. Sprained it. Sorry.
Okay, so I broke my ankle only a week ago, and it sucked too because last week was homecoming week for my college, and that's when all the fun events were going on, like Spirit.
You said
Splash.
you missed a wet T-shirt contest.
It was basically that. Basically, everyone goes in there into the pool, not the pool, the fountain. Basically, runs around, have fun, and gets free T-shirts. Just having a good time.
Couldn't you just wobbled over there?
No, because my roommate went there and he said if I had gone, I probably would have made my injury worse because I would have slipped, or I would have had my foot crushed because there's thousands of people getting their foot stomped on other people. So it was not going to be a good time for me, regardless. So I had to miss out a lot. And the reason I didn't break my ankle. I sprained my ankle because I was riding my board, and I don't think the listeners know this, but I like to skate on a penny board. And one day, as I was heading, leaving class a little bit early, I hit a pothole, and I fell to the ground so bad, and I was so worried because I felt my foot going in the worst pain possible, and I was like, please don't tell me I broke my ankle, because I broke my my left ankle when I was maybe 10 or 11 years old. No, almost 12. Yeah. So I've gone through that pain and it sucks. And I managed to limp my way over because a couple administrators were walking by and it's oh, what happened to you? It's I sprained my ankle. It's so much pain. And it's oh, there's a health center over there. You should, go over there. It's wow, thanks. I'm cured.
Yeah.
It's
that. Okay. Small side tangent. That reminds me of when I was in 5th grade at and I was walking the track that my school had. And I go off the track for a little bit just to go walk in the grass because, I felt like it that day. And I feel a tug at my right foot. It is my right foot. And I look down and there's some sort of wire. It might have been barbed wire. I don't know what it was. But it had wrapped itself around my foot and dug in. And I was just bleeding hard. Now, I didn't feel it because I felt the initial pain. But the shock kicked in, so I didn't feel it after that, and I couldn't really walk on it. So I just sort of half hobbled over to where the teachers were and showed them my gushing wound and my pure red blood-filled shoe, and they're yeah, okay, just go to the nurses or something. And I'm I can barely walk, and they're it's that way. So I just hobble my way and trip multiple times over to the nurse, and she's oh my god, let's get that shoe off, I have to treat this quick. And thankfully she treated it, but I still have a permanent scar around my whole right foot because of it. So yeah, that was quite the story of just people not giving a shit.
I just don't understand, why are people so, I can't even say selfish, but maybe it is the case because
they just don't
it's
give
so
a shit
heartless,
about other people.
Really.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but it's for me, whenever there's someone in trouble, for example, this is not really equivalent, nowhere at all, but there's many times when there are parents or just people who are new to the campus and just need help, even though they don't say anything, or when they do and they go up to you and it's I need help, I don't know where to go. I would take it out of my time to just, instead of just saying oh, you need to go in this direction, it's I would tell them, we need to go in this direction, let me walk you over, so that way they know where they're going. And it takes me out of my time? Yeah, it does, but it would have been, it's worth going out of your way to help someone in need. And I understand, the world doesn't really owe me crap. I'm perfectly okay with that because I shouldn't expect more from that either. But I do think that it's really sad and depressing that two ladies were just walking by and they saw me in pain and they just basically said, go over to the health center, you can take care of it, even though I'm barely, able to, pull myself up on the ground of the pavement. And I think the only person that even bothered was a person who was a fellow skater who was just, passing by. And he was like, oh, dude, what happened? And it's like, I sprained my ankle. Something happened. I need to get to the health center. And he offered to help me and, help me grab my board. He took it so that way he would, make it easier for me to get over there. And he was a nice soul. But it was sad because it had to be someone who's been in the same shoes as me. Because he told me that, I remember breaking my my leg when I was like 14. But no one else could even empathize.
Yeah, people, I don't know, people just don't really give a shit sometimes, and it is, like, disturbing to see, People tell you that when you're a kid that the world's going to be a bright, shiny place, and when you get to our age, you look out and you see a lot of people don't care about anyone else besides themselves or the people closest to them. Like, even just some common compassion to even show some care, like those, two women or whatever you said. I kind of forgot.
Yeah.
They could have at least been like, oh my god, you're that hurt, blah, 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 blah. And they could have, at least walked over to the health center and be like, hey, there's this guy coming in with a sprained ankle. Or even just showing, a shred of empathy. Because it's more than nothing. And they seem to give you nothing. Well, really I guess they told you that there was a health center. That's something.
But the thing is like, the health center was right across from me. I knew where it was. It was like an eye shot away for me to just, crawl over there. It would take me it took me about 10 minutes to crawl over there basically in limp. But it was just like how callous they were. It was just like if I saw that, I'd have been like, here, take my shoulder. I'll try to help you over, even if I didn't know the person, just I'd feel like shit for a week or two after for just letting an injured person like that hobble and crawl over to a doctor. It's like I could have helped. I just don't get how people can live with themselves like that, It's just so disturbing. But it's really important just to think about more simple things in life. Actually,
good transition.
That's why I want to I kind of want to talk about this idea that I was thinking in my mind. And thinking about this, all these things that happen in the world, and also the good things that happen, like JoJo, so blessed. I think one of the things I've recently been thinking about doing is trying to cut down and just simplify my life. Though, if I were to look around my room right now, it doesn't seem to be in practice. But I would say that I've been thinking about this idea called minimalism, and I wanted to know if you have ever heard of it before.
Well, I've heard of minimalist design and things like that, but and I've heard minimalist art, but I've never heard of living minimalist. I mean, I've heard of getting back to basics and all that sort of stuff. But I don't know. It just seems like a bit much. I think most things are best in moderation. And I think going down to just almost say aesthetic life is a bit too much for me.
Well, but for me, from what I understand about minimalism, is that minimalism is basically reducing the things in life that don't bring you meaning, or not meaning, but don't bring you good, worthy value. Like, for example, I don't have a TV. I didn't bring a TV to my dormitory because it didn't really bring me any value in my room. It was there because I had a Chromecast, but it wasn't I used it every day. Outside of maybe Skyrim, I would say the only thing I did use it for was for playing video games, and that's the only time I would keep it. But here, my roommate has a little TV, so it's why would I bring my TV when I could just simplify it? And I'm not just saying in terms of things. I'm saying in terms of clothing too. For example, a lot of things that I have and I own now is reduced by probably, I reduced my original wardrobe by about a third of what it was originally just by cutting out and throwing away a bunch of clothes.
So what, you're wearing a style that's similar to mine now, which is like plain t-shirts, shorts, jeans?
Not
just
yet,
like basic stuff?
This is what I've been thinking. I have, and actually I'm going to send it up to you, and I might put this in the show notes if I really want to. I've been thinking about basically trying to simplify my my outfits as well. Because
I remember you said that you wanted to wear the same outfit every day or something.
Yeah,
like your SpongeBob.
I've been thinking about it, and it's starting to make a little bit of sense to me because I don't really get any value. I mean, I do get some value, but I don't get a lot of value from wearing a bunch of different outfits. But basically, I've been thinking about, simplifying my outfits just so that way I can have a better life in general. And I'm saying that because looking at what I do in my life, I have things that are much more important to me than, focusing on what I like to wear or what I have to eat today, because it gets in the way. I don't know. What do you think about it?
I don't usually care too much about what I'm wearing. Like, as you can probably tell from all your time knowing me, I usually just wear something that's simple and gets the job done. Like, my favorite clothing is a t-shirt, some basketball shorts, and some running shoes. Because they get the job done, and they're comfy. And for cold weather, like right now what I'm wearing, is jeans and a hoodie. Because they get the job done. And I agree with that, but, I'm not going to go wear something that looks terrible. Like, I'm not going to wear, like, neon greens and stuff. But I do have to disagree with you in terms of the food thing. That's probably because I love food and I love making food and I love cooking. So, like, what I'm eating that day is, usually one of my concerns. For example, tonight, because my mom got a new job and all that, we decided to celebrate. We went to a local Japanese steakhouse, and it was amazing. I got some really great food. It was just really good, and it's going to be the highlight of my day. Well, it is the highlight of my day because I'm recording at night right now. So I'd have to disagree with you there, but I do think cutting things that are like useless or irrelevant out of your life is a good idea, but you have to not get too overzealous, because you could cut things out that are good for you thinking it'll help you. So I would say do it in moderation. From what you're saying, it seems like you're going to stop caring about a lot of things, which I think is
what I kind of want to say is I want to try to simplify what I wear so I can focus on the things that matter to me. Like, I'm sending you this link that's pretty broken because it
kind of worked, yeah.
Yeah, but as you can see, like, these are the kind of things I would kind of want to wear. Like, simple jeans, black t-shirt, and sneakers. So that way I can just focus on the things that matter. Because what I'm talking about is, like, getting up in the morning, all right? One of the things that has, like, saved me a lot of time was taking showers at night and taking, like, nice warm showers. So that way, when I wake up in the morning, I can just wash my face, brush my teeth, and then get ready to do some work. Because I like to do all my stuff, like, everything that's important to me, I want to do it right first thing in the morning. And the more friction that gets in the way of me doing that is what I don't like. Now, for you, you're a night owl, all right?
I do my best work around this time, yeah.
Exactly. So this
which,
is
if you're wondering,
for
it's exactly 10:46 right now.
Right. And because of that, because he works better around like at 10:46, and I work better around like 8:46 in the morning. There's a little bit of difference in why I talk about this, but I see this as important to me because I want to do this for two reasons. A, by simplifying my life, I'm able to focus on the things that matter, like building my business, focusing on this podcast, and trying to live a healthier life in general.
Crap.
And on top of that, I kind of want to use this as an opportunity for me to wear my favorite clothes and hopefully wear my brand on me at all times. Because I've been thinking about this as a term of, like, advertising. Mm-hmm. Like, for example, if I were to wear, like, a Tangent Podcast t-shirt, a black Tangent Podcast t-shirt almost every day, and a hoodie that has my logo on it, people will start to see me and see that every day and wonder what that's all about.
Mm-hmm.
And it'll bring traffic to our respective projects.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. Like, we talked a bit about trying to get, some shirts to wear for Tangent Podcast and such. And I definitely do that. I mean, you have your own logo on your hat and such that you've had for like a few years now, but I'm not much of a hat guy. But getting some sweet merch to sell to the viewers who should definitely buy it and give us money.
They should.
So
that way you can wear our logo every single day and just rep our brand forever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But minimalism sounds okay as long as you don't go too overboard.
No, definitely. Actually, you know what? I'm going to put this in a link right here just so some little reading. But basically for me, I think it's just like a tool for me that can help me find freedom in what I want in life. And it's a tool. That's the point. It's not so much of like, oh, this is like a paradigm that I must follow with aesthetic practice. This is just more of like a way for me to get more value out of my life. Same way about like self-discipline. And I remember hearing this from, I think, Rocco. He's a former Navy SEAL that has a podcast, Jocko podcast. That was it. And I remember him saying, self-discipline is not so much as being trapped to do the same thing in life, but it gives you freedom to do what you want in life. Because if you can control yourself, then you can do nearly anything.
Somewhat, yes. But, life is based upon other people, and you will need other people to succeed. You can't do everything yourself.
Oh, definitely. And I think that's another thing I would have to work on myself, to just learn to give more of myself and my trust to other people in terms of like what I do. But I always find that if I am able to improve myself in some way, I'm really interested in finding that. Because in the end, my biggest fan in my corner is me. And my biggest
rival is yourself too.
Rival is myself as well. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's at least how it was for me as well for a long time. I'm still my biggest rival because you have to, deal with your own problems every day. But I'm probably not my biggest supporter anymore. Like, I have people behind me that I think would back me up no matter what. And I don't know. I think I could count you in that.
Definitely.
And I don't know. I've been trying to keep in contact with the friends I've made like over the years, because I don't want to be lonely again. So I've been keeping contact with my friends and making new ones and such, and it's pretty great. So, yeah.
Well, hopefully our viewers can keep in contact with us.
Hey, viewers, if call
follow
your mom
us on
or something
Twitter,
like that.
so that way we can share some of that intimate podcasting friendship.
Yeah, I'm willing to get intimate.
Connecting us together.
No, don't cut. I stand by what I said, ladies. I'm willing to get intimate.
I'm willing to get intimate with our viewers as well. But
we just lost all female viewers. They're all gone.
Okay, but this has been the Tangent Podcast.
I could keep talking for like another hour. This like short format's gonna take a while for me to get used to.
It really is. We'll have some bonus listening material after this.
Yeah, I'll get bored one day over the Thanksgiving holiday and make something fucking stupid probably.
Definitely.
Or I'll make something like inspirational, like the last episode of the last bonus episode, which apparently made my mom cry. So. Yeah. Well, she cried because she was happy or something like that. I don't really know. Hi, Mom.
Hi. But yeah, this has been Tangent Podcast. I will be putting up I'm considering doing a 12 days of Christmas. Hopefully.
You want to record for 12 straight, like one episode a day?
No, well, that would be. I don't think that's possible, in my opinion.
What if we record 20-minute fucking episodes?
We're gonna have to record really that'd be. Listeners should put a vote or get a response if you want like a 12 days of tangent podcast during
either
December.
that, or we could give you a Christmas present of like a 3-hour long podcast. Either is fine. Do you want more? Do you want 12 like 25 to 30-minute episodes, or do you want one giant like 2.5-hour episode?
Oh, 12:25. That actually kind of makes sense.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my God. Okay, we have to do that now.
Yeah, okay. 12 25-minute episodes to the Tangent Podcast.
You're going to have hell to do over winter break. You're going to have 12 episodes to record.
Jesus.
Oh, also, hey, listeners, I hope you enjoyed the funky, smooth music throughout the episode, courtesy of yours truly.
Definitely,
because I definitely made all that music myself.
He's actually a talented musician. It's all me. This whole time. But yeah.
Okay, so yeah, thanks for listening to the Tangent Podcast, episode 11, named something good. Or I don't fucking know.
I think I know what I want.
Oh wait, no. Hey, speaking of curses, you might have noticed throughout the episode, if Yjang decides to do it, we're now censoring swears like and they're gonna be like dolphin noises.
Yeah.
But I have to stop myself. This is the end of the episode. Thank you for listening to Tangent Podcast. See you next week. Roll credits. Finn.